This talk has been put together in response to the nutrition questionnaire that went out recently. One of the most asked questions was, what should I be eating? Is there anything special that I should or shouldn't be eating? So we held a Zoom workshop, and this presentation has been edited from that workshop. Okay. So the plan of the original idea was to cover superfoods as well, but due to time constraints, this will be in another session. So why is there so much interest in special diets? Okay. Why is this question so important? There can be a lot of pressure to follow special diets. Information from the media, web, friends, family, pressure that if you don't try things, it's your fault if you don't get better or you get worse. There's also a lot of pseudoscience, for example, clean food, alkaline and acid diets. And there's a lot of information out there from often self-proclaimed experts, which sound very plausible, but are rarely evidence-based or even based on correct medical principles. People have more disposable income and therefore are able to experiment more with other foods as well. And also there's lots of diets and recommendations out there because people make money. Basic healthy information doesn't sell books or doesn't sell supplements, doesn't make a lot of money, but some well-packaged diet that's promising the earth, people will pay to get more information. There's also exploitation of the vulnerable. And there was a story of someone who actually faked brain cancer and ended up working with the big companies Apple and Jamie Oliver just to make money. So we have to be very careful on what we read and believe on the internet. Myths that spread, and myths have power, and suddenly myths become mainstream. The wellness industry, this is a rapidly expanding area as well. Foods are often simplified into being good or bad. We've got the rise of the superfood. And actually, as health professionals, we're now finding more and more people with disordered eating patterns and malnutrition due to following extreme diets. There's also a lot of pressure on researchers to publish preliminary evidence that's too early and then doesn't stand up to later scrutiny. So it's really, really important to, if you read anything, to really think about it carefully, use critical thinking skills. And if you're not sure, ask, and ask again. Okay, so food's something we can take control of. It's natural. It's ingrained in every aspect of our lives. Foods can be used to help treat various conditions, but there are also downsides as well. And we're going to go through all of these different things. So critical questions when you're reading something. Does it sound too good to be true? If it does, it probably is. Okay. What are we aiming for? The aim of any dietary change to manage MS is to find a way of eating that can A, reduce the inflammation within the body, as this is thought to be a primary cause of myelin damage, B, protect against nerve damage and degeneration, and C, promote nervous system repair. So that's the basic fundamentals that any diet should be able to answer. We need to ask, is there a cost involved? Do you need to pay to get more information? Now, that could be genuine, or it could be an indication that someone's there to make money more than anything else. Who's written the information? Do they really have the credentials that they claim to have? What size were the studies? And how long did the studies last? If there were 12 people and lasted 2 weeks, then that's not a valid study. And are the conclusions really valid, or are they just associations? Just because A means B happens doesn't mean that A causes B to happen. It can just be coincidental. Doesn't necessarily mean one changes the other. And also, is it suitable for my lifestyle and my other health conditions? Or does it put me at risk of developing other health conditions? And have I got the energy and the ability to follow the diet? If it's going to make me more stressed, or it's going to make you more stressed, then you could be doing more harm than good. So having said that, there are many special diets out there. So what we're going to do is go through the more common ones and just try and critique them and tease out what's the good and what's the bad in these diets. So this is the selection we're going to look at. Okay, so starting with the best bet diet. So this was developed by Ashton Embry as a dietary strategy for managing MS. And he and the diet supporters suggest that leaky gut syndrome is important, that initiates a series of events that then contribute to MS, and that dietary modifications and supplementation can lessen this risk. The diet cuts out many healthy foods such as beans, grains, and dairy, and it requires extra supplements to be taken. It can also be very low in energy and low in protein. So the theory is that the foods that are banned are similar to the proteins found in myelin, and that when you eat the foods that contain these proteins, the body thinks they're invaders and mounts an immune response and begins to attack its own myelin. It's a process called molecular mimicry. And this supplement recommends that you take over 19 supplements. This diet recommends you take over 19 supplements on a daily basis. It's not a diet that's recommended. Another one you'll come across is the Paleo diet. And the idea is that we go back to the types of foods that cavemen would have had access to, and these are the foods that our bodies are best adapted to eating. It's not a terribly practical diet. It encourages the consumption of meat from game and things like that, which is very expensive. But diets limit grains, dairy, pulses, potatoes, and processed foods. And although we don't want to be eating too many processed foods, again, it eliminates healthy foods such as pulses and grains. And it's not nutritionally complete. It's very difficult to follow, and there is no evidence that it helps. So yes, it's good to get back to basics and eat fresh food, eat food that looks like food, but not to follow this particular diet to the letter. Rules is a diet that lots of people will have heard about. It's part of what's called the Rules protocol. Okay, the protocol combines diet, vitamins, meditation, and exercise. So there's also a newer version as well that looks at ketogenic diets. The Rules protocol is named after Dr. Terry Walls, who states that her MS has been reversed by following the diet. She's from America. The theory is to focus on foods that contain nutrients that help your mitochondria to work better. The mitochondria are part of the cell that makes energy for your body's use. She suggests foods such as vegetables, fruit, and wild and organic meats are good sources, and that this then prevents the MS lesions. It could be that there is some mild ketosis in this diet, and that might be beneficial, but we'll come back to that later. There's several cons to this diet. It's almost impossible to find a lot of information unless you join websites and pay a lot of money. The diet is low in B vitamins and calcium. There's lots of levels of different restrictions, and again, lots of supplements are recommended. There's 3 levels of the diet, strict, and strictest. So one of the main things is that each day you have to eat 9 cups of vegetables and fruit, which includes 3 cups of leafy greens, 3 cups of sulfur-rich vegetables like onion, garlic, and cabbage, and 3 of brightly coloured vegetables and fruit, which is good in a way, but you can't possibly eat that much every day. You have to avoid gluten, dairy, eggs, processed foods, sugars. And in the level 3, then some berries and fruits are also, fruits are limited to berries only. So there's lots and lots of restrictions. The Walls does stress that antioxidants are important to prevent inflammation. And again, we agree with that. There is evidence to suggest that. So the positive point of this diet is eating various coloured foods, eating a rainbow. But the pro is that it is unbalanced. And as I say, you need over 15 supplements in order to make this diet complete. I won't read out the whole list of supplements because it is a very long page full. And then the next diet is the Swank diet. And he looked at epidemiology to design the diet. So that's looking at previous studies and studies of populations and what causes what. He found that very low-fat diets, where all types of fats were restricted, that people tended to have lower rates of MS. He followed 144 individuals. It's not that many. Over 34 years, that is a good time period. And he found that those with less than 20 grams of saturated fat per day had fewer relapses and progression. And that's actually in line with the current recommendations. where we say that saturated fat should be less than 11% of energy intake, which is about 20 grams per day. So whilst the results show promise, experts say there are some drawbacks to the diet and more research is needed. So as I say, the focus is mainly on fat, with no more than 15 grams or 15 to 20 grams of saturated fat per day and a minimum of 20 grams of unsaturated fat per day. So you can have some oils, you can have sunflower oils, sesame, cottonseed, linseed, soybean, peanut, flaxseed. It also focuses on consuming fruits and vegetables and whole grains, which is good. Limits coffee, but you can have an occasional glass of wine. And again, it does suggest taking certain supplements. There are a few other rules. No red meat, including pork, in the first year. After that, you can have up to 3 ounces of red meat per week or 4 ounces of chicken per day. White fish is allowed, although fatty fish is limited, although we know that the omega-3 in fatty fish can be very beneficial. 3 eggs a week, but no more than 1 egg at any serving. And to reduce dairy produce as well. So overall, bits of it are quite healthy, bits of it are good, based on good principles, but you need to make sure, because you can end up being low in iron, calcium, and not having adequate calories. And also some of the restrictions aren't really based on a lot of evidence. For instance, the why no red meat for a year. What happens after a year to say that you can then include it? So again, we need to look more at this. And then the most popular diet is the OMS, or the Overcoming MS diet, which was developed by Dr. George Jelinek in 1999, following his diagnosis in MS. And again, it's part of a lifestyle program, including diet, medication, and exercise and meditation. So again, that's all good things. It's based on the Swank diet, which, as we've said, isn't too bad. But it also advises cutting out dairy and meat, and it's stricter in the amount of fat that's allowed. And again, there's some supplements that it recommends. So the diet principles aim to protect MS in similar ways to the Best Bet diet, in as much as it avoids dairy, because that might mimic the protein that can then is in myelin that the body can then destroy. It looks at the epidemiology, saying that people who eat less fat have slower progression. Okay. Another good thing, though, for eating less fat is if you're eating less fat and that helps you to lose weight, then we know that that reduces inflammation, because people who are obese, who are overweight, their bodies tend to be in a state of inflammation. There's a number of other claims it makes, saying that eating saturated fats increases the amount of fat in the myelin, which makes it stiff and therefore more prone to damage. I'm not sure about that. It talks about avoiding red fat, to cut down on saturated fat, which is fine, but then also talks about restricting things like avocados, egg yolks, nuts as well, but they're all healthy, good sources of fats. So there's a few little things that sort of don't quite make sense all the way through. It does talk about supporting good gut health, which is really important, and it does have good advice on managing stress as well. So there are good things again about this diet, but then there are a few things which, if taken to the letter, can mean that some people are following a bit of a restrictive diet. Okay. So just a bit more about how the diet was developed as well. It was based on a big study, a holism study, which again looked at people and what they ate and what symptoms they had. But the study was self-selected. So the people who joined the study were the people with MS who were already very keen on looking at diet and looking at nutrition. So it's a very, very biased study that it was based on. But again, having said that, anything that gets people to think about your food, and if you're looking at eating proper food and food that looks like food, then that is a good thing. So the diet is, in essence, is a vegan diet plus seafood. So you do need to be careful that you don't end up low in iron if you're not having any red meat at all. It doesn't contain any dairy foods, so there is a problem with calcium. So again, you need to look at that. And there's various other bits and pieces, like it discourages eating any foods where oil is heated, which, yes, if you are using an oil that's used for deep fat frying on several, and it's reused and reused, that does degrade the fat, and then it's not good for you. But if you're just frying something or stir frying with a little bit of olive oil, then there's no problem with that at all. But the diet would say no. I spent a long time looking at this diet because it is the most popular one. When you read the books, it's written in a very scientific way, lots of references. But then when you delve deeper, a lot of the science isn't very strong. And the problem that I have with it is it's very prescriptive. Okay, so I say lots of foods, there's limits on foods where there's no evidence to limit them. And the one I've already mentioned is avocados. The other concern about this diet is that it does read as if it's been endorsed by Professor Giovanni, who I know a lot of you know about, and he's told me that he's never recommended or endorsed this diet. So again, you have to read things very, very carefully. But it is, it is, a lot of the diet principles in it are quite healthy. So it's like we've been saying all the way through, you have to look at things and critically evaluate them and decide what bits are suitable for you, and perhaps not follow anything directly to the letter, but use it as a starting point. Ketogenic diet. This is something that's becoming more interesting at the moment. Ketogenic diet does have antioxidant and anti-inflammatory qualities. The theory is that the higher levels of insulin result in increased inflammation. So if you're following a ketogenic diet, then you have less stimulus of insulin, and there you have less inflammation. It may protect against various forms of cell death. It may be that the state of ketosis reduces the toxic effect of the amino acid glutamate, and high levels of glutamate are associated with demyelination. And in fact, one of the disease-modifying drugs actually works by acting like a ketone body. That's dimethyl fumarate, which is found in Tecfidera. So these ketone bodies may well be protective against MS. There are concerns with keto diets on how they might affect your microbiome. So that's really gut bacteria. And we know that gut bacteria is important for good health. And again, good gut health may help protect against MS. So again, it needs a lot more research to look at the longer term implications of this. We also don't know about what level of ketogenesis we need. Can it be intermittent fasting? Does it need to be once a week? Can it be just overnight? Can it be a couple of days, every few months? No one knows yet. So again, there's evidence going on, and it's something to watch this space. And then thinking about overall health, again, you've got to think, well, if you're limiting very, certain food groups, you just need to be careful. Does something like following a very, very strict keto diet, is that going to increase the risks of any cancers and things like that? So it's looking at our overall health, not just as MS. And then, okay, there's other research. Before we say that, just say that there is a study going on at the moment looking at comparing fasting and a ketogenic diet on the outcome of fatigue levels. So that'll be quite interesting. So salt, there's been some suggestions that having a low salt diet can protect against myelin. We don't know how this works, but the guidance for everyone is to keep it below 6 grams per day, and that's good, healthy advice. And there was a very small study, so it's only 30 participants, and it's only for 12 weeks, so it's short, looking at probiotics, and they did show that there was possibly a small improvement. Although it's statistically improvement, in practice it was too small. The people didn't really show functional improvements. And also there's very, very many types of probiotics. So the one used in the study contained a number of the lactobacillus group and bifidobacterium bifidum. But again, we don't really know which are the best ones and in what balance. But again, it's watch this space, and healthy eating your fruit and vegetables and things, then that will help your diet to be full of prebiotics, which are all the goodies that the bugs like, and then that will help to encourage good gut health. So, in summary, think very, very carefully about anything you read. Critically evaluate it. Ask questions, even if it sounds scientific and it's written by people with titles of doctors and things. Do not believe everything you read until you check it out. And is it suitable for you and your lifestyle? If it's going to cause stress, then it's going to be causing more damage than the good it could be doing. Yeah. If you're reliant on other people to cook for you, if you've got problems that way, then it can be much harder to implement these things. Although if you do really struggle, then our OT at the centre can help you with lots of advice on meal prep and how to get around things and gadgets and things like that. Is the diet suitable for your other health conditions? If you're struggling with losing weight, and by that I mean that you're underweight and you can't maintain your weight, then a lot of these diets are low in calories and wouldn't be suitable for you. And any benefits of the diet would be far out. The disadvantages will outweigh the benefits of the diet, is what I'm trying to say. Is the diet safe? Are any nutrients missing? Calcium, really important one for people with MS. We're all taking our vitamin D, which is great. But particularly if you're non-weight bearing, if you don't go out so much, if you have got a low body weight, your risk of osteoporosis is much higher. Your risk of falls is higher. So you don't want to be having poor bone health. The last thing we want is fractures. Okay, so always check, is the diet safe? Is anything missing? Is it suitable for you? And if in doubt, then ask. And I'm at the MS Centre, I can help, or there's lots of people who can point you in the right direction of information that can help. And my final advice would be, have a healthy, balanced diet. Make it colourful. Fruit and vegetables. Good, healthy, balanced meals, and then you're not going to go far wrong. Mediterranean style is always a good way to look for. Okay. So, and then we finished up our webinar with questions. So again, if you've got any questions, if you've watched this, then you're more than welcome to get in touch with me. My email's on the website, on the MS Centre website, and you're more than welcome to send me a question. And apologies for my phone that just went ping. So I hope that's helped, and look forward to speaking to you about this and any other aspects of nutrition you've got questions on.